I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I've clicked on VR tours of ship interiors before. Why is this one any different? They were all terrible. Yes, they're all like this. Let me give you a quick impression. Look at the scale. It gives you quite a sense of scale. Everything is so much bigger than I expected. Scale? The scale is just extraordinary. Look at the scale. Scale. Look at that. Oh, the scale is truly magnifique. This is all quite big, isn't it? Look at the scale. But what I wanted was someone to shove their head into the ship, around, under, through, and see what the actual interiors look like. So that's what I'm doing for you today. Whole series is coming up. We're starting off with the Sidewinder, quite obviously. So let's get into it. Right, so here's a scene that you have seen a billion times, and I'll be standing up in about 20 seconds. I just wanted to orientate you to something. So in terms of where the hand positions are, it's right here. In terms of where the feet positions are, it's about there. And in terms of the scale of, I said that word again, in terms of the handles, so one handle would be right here, this one up there, and this handle would be right here. So very much so you could hang off these two handles like a set of monkey bars. Now, that's enough sitting down. I probably won't be sitting down ever again. Let's get rid of this chair, in fact. Now, as soon as you stand up and look back at yourself, you'll see one of the most freaky things that you've ever seen in Elite Dangerous. Yep, you are headless. So, your pilot, who is still moving around very easily, moving their fingers, etc. No, not when you do things, but yeah, they are a headless pilot who is still living and breathing and moving their neck around when they move their head, which is extremely disconcerting. But let's stop looking at that now, and I'm going to run around the ship. I'll probably start over here because there's some interesting stuff down there, and then we'll go all the way around the other side and have a look, and we'll also stick my head through the door so that you can see what's through there. Now, I will break your immersion a little bit by doing that, but you can always look away. I'll always warn you before I stick my head through things. So we can also look outside at the back of the ship, and we can see some of the features of the ship from here. Here's another potentially immersion breaking thing before I go on. You can see into the hard points, so they're not actually covered when you're in first person mode, only in third person or free cam. So let's start down here, shall we? So we have a panel that is DeLacy Systems, and looks like some sort of a status indicator for something, showing 25% of a thing, and some buttons, which is all very exciting. Down here we have a little panel that is about the size of a lunchbox, probably about yay big if I can scale it. And over here we have something fun. We have a thermos behind this elastic, and we have the Space Traders Flight Training Manual, Volume 1, which is kind of amusing. Down here we have what appears to be a toolkit, approximately a foot, maybe a little bit more than a foot in width, about half a foot in depth. Quite narrow, probably about the length of a finger in terms of depth. Then we have here a parcel, which is not really securely held down, but attempted to be securely held down by these straps. It seems to have a stamp on it that you can't really read. Okay, moving on. There is another indicator panel with some buttons on it, DeLacy Systems, and F3.1, I don't know what that means, some funky camera setting or something. Down here is another hatch. This is quite sizable, probably 2 feet wide, 1 foot deep. Looks like it hinges up and opens. You could probably fit a very thin piece of carry-on on there, or maybe a briefcase. Then we have this very prominent pipe that runs all the way from here to all the way to there, so it's quite a long pipe, and it has stuff written on it that's in reasonably low pixelation, so you can't really read what that says. It's also backwards. I think the pipe over the other side is not backwards, so we'll read that one. Down here, a basic first aid kit, very small one, probably 8 by 8 inches, and only a couple of inches deep. And then I'm going to have to recenter myself for the other side. But for the moment, let's look at the seat. So here we have your standard seat. Now, I don't know what this graphical glitch down here is. I think it's landing gear that has come through in VR, so I'm not sure why that happens, but anyway, there you have it. The seat is nicely put together. It's got these little vents that are about a palm size with the 3 holes in them. These handles, which are actually a human size handle, you'll see that's an issue in some of the ships later on. There is this back section, which is a bit like one of those plastic formed backpacks that you might wear, really fat one, maybe like a motorcycle backpack. It's about the size of one. There's a sign down here that says, danger, cover will come off in case of jettison, replace if damaged. Okay, so that's like for seat injection system or something, I'm not really sure. Another little cubby hole down here, about the size of a lunchbox again, not very big. This looks like a repaired panel maybe, about 1 foot by about 8 inches high. Another one of those over here, maybe it's an access panel rather than a repair panel. I'll get back to the door later on. Here is the other pipe. Pressure, PSI 32. Falcon DeLacy, something, that's serial number OXX02 ready or something. That's about all you can read on there. On the other side of the seat, the only thing that's a bit different is here. There is a sign next to this vent that says SRF07 do not cover. Not sure what that does, maybe it's something to do with the life support. There's more of these panels all over the place. These are quite small. And down here we have the keyboard. Now I've always been fascinated by this thing because it's very archaic. It's actually based on an old programming keyboard from an old computer. But that bit's not the interesting bit. Over here we have what appears to be an SD card slot or something similar next to what appears to be a CF card slot. Now it's actually a little bit wider than CF cards, but anyway, it gives you some idea about the scale of those. And the keyboard itself, it does look proper. It's properly scaled. It's the right size for a keyboard. Now, let's have a look at this arm a bit more closely. So it's obviously attached to the wall here. It seems like it would come out pretty much to wherever the commander would want it, up to probably right next to them. So up to next to their leg. Or it would sit quite easily down here. Now let's look at the textures from underneath, shall we? Well, it's as boring as you might have imagined. It's just plain. Right, now having a closer look at the heads-up display. So this section here showing you the Sidewinder is about the size of a regular dinner plate in terms of the shield rings. And the model itself probably could fit into your hands, sort of positioned like that. Down here we have some venting and some basic decorations, nothing too exciting there. And underneath the dash is just plain, so nothing down there. And you can't really see through the floor other than to see blackness. Over here we have, I don't know what these are supposed to be, maybe some lights or indicators of some type. Not sure what they'd be indicating, but there they are. And here is the main display. Now this is about the size of a platter plate that you might have at a party, or maybe a lazy Susan that you'd have spin around. Not sure what these things are supposed to be. Maybe they look a bit like low-res spirit levels or something, or maybe they're LED lights. Yeah, it's not really clear. There's the Falcon DeLacy logo, looking all spesh. At the very front of the dash, we have a couple of more little light indicators. This looks like some sort of a panel that could have a readout on it. Doesn't have anything on it at the moment. And then, yeah, when you're really close, the textures really start to suffer, but you're never supposed to look at it from this distance, are you? And then we have this cool bit of jerry-rig wire that seems to come right out of the front of the dash. And a bit of the old proprietary duct tape. Nice to see that duct tape fixes everything, even in space. And some miniature, what looks like cable ties. Oh, I see, it's actually a ream of cables, not just one cable. You can see a red one in there. Cool. And they're coming all the way over here. A bit more jerry-rigged duct tape, which is floating, but we'll leave them go with that. And then the wires go and sort of disappear there behind the pipe. So there's DIR, CAL and SIS with 3 lights and a vent and another unmarked light and what looks like to be a very small serial number sticker that you can't read. No, it's just a small serial sticker about the length of your finger, but it's too small to actually read in VR. And here the DIR, CAL and SIS are actually reversed. All right, shall I break your immersion now? So now, word of warning, I'm about to walk through this door. For those of you who don't want to see what's on the other side, look away now and I'll let you know when it's all over. Alrighty, are you ready? Here we go. Don't expect much. Alright, so here is the interior, for want of a better word, of the Sidewinder rear. Now, I'll try and describe the shape and size of this area for you. If you imagine 6 table tennis tables next to each other, so one sitting over here, right, one in the middle, and one on the end, ow, that's about the size of that area there. So large, but certainly not ginormous. What you can see right below me is the hangar bay for the SRVs. So normally the SRV would sit down there. It doesn't actually render if you're in VR and you've got it in the back. It's not actually there until you actually deploy it. Now, over to the side here, you can see the landing gear sticking down there onto the ground. And, you know, through the center of the ship, you can see in the front there the housing for the hard points, which goes a fair way down. There we are. So that's just a small hard point, and it's about the size of a bathtub for a regular human, and the depth of about 6 feet, maybe a little bit more. So then, let's stick our head a bit further back. So there you can see the engines there at the back, or the insides of the engines. So they're about 4 feet wide, and those rotator thrusters down there are about 1.5 feet in diameter. So they're actually about that big, which is quite sizable. Right, obviously you can see the inside of the heat vents dissipators there, and some handles on the outside and various other bits and bobs. And the rear there, which you can see straight through. There you are. Right, let's unbreak the immersion and go back into the cockpit. All right, let's take this thing out for a flight, shall we? Right, now you'll see I have this thing on auto launch. Don't get too frustrated by that. And the reason I'm doing that is so I can actually step out of myself while it flies out and show you the ship moving around. So the cockpit itself is actually pretty large. I would say it's the size of the front of a bus, probably, in terms of width. And that door at the back, you would have to scooch down just a tiny bit to stop yourself donking your head on the way out. Now, I'm not going to say the obvious thing of scale, but yes, that is huge. So we'll fly out of here a little bit, fly a bit further away, then I'll deploy the hard points, breaking your immersion slightly again, and show you what those look like. Let's give it some thrust. Sparks out the back as we go. Okay, so now I'm about as close to the hard points as the VR will let me get, and I'm going to deploy them. So you can see that it's a blank metal floor at the moment. So let's see what this looks like. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so there you are. So there's that one, and there's the laser. I'll just get rid of that one and redeploy it so you can see it coming out again. So see, it disappears and it comes in and it pops up and does its whole deployment thing. Now, the weapons themselves, like in terms of scale, this is a small scale weapon. You can see it's on a gimbal, which is why it's moving around. This, I would say, is about the length of a large chopper motorcycle. So, to give you a sense of scale about that one, it's huge. You could, as it's moving now, you could sit on that and it would be like one of those mechanical bulls you'd have to ride at the rodeo. In terms of this minigun, each of those barrels, I would say, is probably like 3 inches in diameter. So it's a fairly hefty piece of kit. Let's give him a bit of a fire, shall we? There you go, there's a bit of that spin up, and then the whole thing vibrates violently. And actually it somewhat retracts into itself as well as it fires, which you probably can't see from the cockpit view as much. It's all bouncing around and shaking itself into oblivion. Looks a bit more like an orc weapon from Warhammer 40k, the way it bounces itself around. There's quite a bit of recoil in that one. And the laser does a fair bit of spinning and recoiling as well, which I'm not sure how physics works in Elite Dangerous, but I'm pretty sure that light doesn't have recoil. Anyway, we'll have to ask Neil deGrasse Tyson about that one. And I guess the only other thing to mention from this direction is that the decal on the front of the ship, which is probably pretty huge, I'd say probably like a meter and a bit across, is very low res. So actually I guess it doesn't need to be high res because you can't really see it from this angle in theory. One thing I should mention, of course, is if you select free cam, then your head comes back. So then you have full vision of what your commander actually looks like, and there's his ugly mug. Oi! The other thing I would mention actually while we're here is the scale of the hands is totally off. So if you look at your own hands or feel into your own hands in VR and you look at these are little child hands. The head is probably a bit small as well, but the rest of the body and the face is kind of a bit off scale as well, but the hands certainly look like tiny little child hands, probably from a 12-year-old. So that is certainly immersion breaking when you get in here for the first time. Yeah. In terms of the feet, they're okay. They're about a size 10, roughly. So they're roughly to the right scale. The body's not too bad. The shoulders and arms look okay, but the hands just need to be so much bigger than what they actually are. It does not work at all. In terms of the head, it's roughly the right size, I would say, probably, for an average human head. Yes. Do you want me to break the immersion even more and stick my face in his face? All right then, let's see what's in there. Well, the standard tongue and eyeballs. All right, that's disgusting. Let's get out of here, shall we? So I'm going to break your immersion one more time and look inside the cargo hold and get down on the floor into the cargo hold as much as is humanly possible, and we'll see if the thing can actually open. So lying down on the floor like this, you can see the bottom of the cargo hold. Nothing special about the cargo hold other than that, but if you deploy the cargo scoop, it actually properly deploys, which looks really awesome. Right, let's close it up again, shall we? Now, Commander Headless actually reminded me that I missed something. Down by the left-hand side, there is a thing that I always wondered about and tried to work out what on earth it was. Maybe it looked like a pistol or something along those lines. So let's have a close look. Now it says CO2 on it, so I'm guessing maybe it's a fire extinguisher. It's about the only thing that I can imagine would have CO2 written on it in space. And one more bit of immersion breaking as we go in. I'm going to shove my head back through the back and look at the thrusters, so if you don't want to see that, turn away. Alright, so there you go. So there's the thrusters working, both the rear engines and the sideways thrusters, or the up and down thrusters I should say. And then let's see if we can see the gear deploy. There it goes. There we are, immersion thoroughly broken. Some reversing thrusters and stuff as we touch down. And there's your front gear, all the way over there. Ow. Whew, well, that's actually pretty tiring. I never thought I'd be tired and sweaty playing Elite Dangerous, but there you go. Apparently it can happen. Right, well, I hope you enjoyed that video, the proper VR look at Elite Dangerous's ship interiors, and hopefully me sticking my head through the wall was beneficial and you learned something about how the ship is laid out. My plan for this series is to go through every single ship within Elite Dangerous and give them the same treatment, crawling around on the floor, looking under things, behind things, and through things. So if you like that sort of thing, please subscribe, join me on this journey. I'm going to sweat a lot, clearly, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.